So inshallah, today we're going to continue the journey of Kiama, the journey of that's happening right now, moment to moment. The journey that you are the farmer, the farmyard, everything that you create in the next world is happening right now through your deeds. Inshallah. So we're going to start off with a quick testimonial. We had a retreat a couple weeks ago. Let's everybody please just give me your best. I'm gonna there's so much to cover in an hour, and I really am focusing on the Holy Quran today in terms of how Allah speaks to us about, mashallah, about our deeds. Patience, Islam. I can't just preach it. You got to practice it. What if somebody's sick? What if it's her kid calling about an issue? You never know. You always have to give benefit of the doubt. So, me and Hassan play basketball. Sometimes when the ball doesn't go in the hoop, and one guy calls foul, and the other guy says, "I don't follow you." That's putting a basketball in a hoop. How long sometimes do they complain, Hajjaz? 15 minutes. We're just sitting there. We have the court for 2 hours. We just see these grown men fighting over a ball, over a hoop. Other people are fighting for land. Some people fight over dribbling the ball over and over again. We had a retreat a few weeks ago, and there was Haji Sama and Haji Fatima came as participants, and this was your second retreat, right, Sama? And that was your first. And when her mom first came in, when I was speaking, I wouldn't look at her because she wasn't too happy. She was sad. There's an energy. You know, there are certain types of people when you meet them, they uplift the room, the energy. They're the types of people when they're around animals, the animals run to them. We've done even meditations where just to teach you how to have even a bird land on you, how to change your energy so much that you even attract animals. Remember when the prophets and the imams, when the evildoers wouldn't feed the lions for days, then they would tell the imam, okay, go into the cage of the lion. They would sit there with peace. And the lions would sit next to them. Imagine how their energy was next to the lions and how they were able to absorb such pure love for Allah that even the animals were able to resonate with that. So this person came, and in the first day, she had some health issues. She had to be forced for about 3 weeks. Every day, her daughter telling her, "You have to come." And her mom kept saying, "I'm going to heal myself. I don't need to come." And then when she's driving here, she was complaining, "Why are we going here?" So then we did a healing, we did a prayer for her. I want them to take a few minutes to share their story. Why do we do testimonials? Because it embodies truth. And what's the loudest voice in the room? Evidence. And I told her during the retreat at Sunday, she changed the whole mood of the retreat. One person. I said, I would spend dinner with you, knowing your story more than any business athlete. Because she's the embodiment of truth. Within one prayer, her whole destiny was changed. So let's welcome them up with a large salawat. Allah. And then she hugged me after, and she goes, "Don't tell your wife."
Am I going first?
Yes, go ahead.
Salam. Um, the March retreat was the first retreat for me, and it was life changing. My sister's here. I dragged her as well the first time because I didn't want to go by myself, and I'm sure it was life changing for her as well. I was going through a lot in the beginning of 2023, and I started coming to the meditations here at Wise. And I heard Brother Hussein say there's a retreat, and I booked as he was saying there's a retreat. I booked on the spot. I was like, if I don't book now, I'm not going to go. So I needed to force myself. So I went, and it was a great retreat. The energy in March was just incredible. I met great people who are going to be my friends forever. It was a healing journey for me in March. And because I got so much out of it and my sister got so much out of it in March, I kind of forced her to come this time when I heard there's another retreat. So, like Brother Hussein was saying, for weeks, in the beginning, she said she would go, and then as closer we got to the retreat, she would say, "No, I'm not going. I don't need to go. I'm good. I'm good. I can heal myself." And didn't want to go until the day before. I made sure she packed her stuff, and we left on time. Uh, but I'll let her share her experience because it was kind of forced, but I needed her to get out of. My dad passed away in 2020, and she has never been the same person. She struggled. Oh, forever. It's very hard, and my siblings can attest. You have to force her to get out of the house. She will not leave because that's her safe space. She doesn't want to talk to people. She doesn't want to get out. So the retreat was my way to get her out to meet new people and just go on this journey. After my dad has passed, she needs to find herself and find self love for her and do things for herself. So that's why I forced her, and I hope she doesn't hate me for it because I feel like at the end she loved it. But I'll let her share her journey this time from the retreat, and of course, this retreat was great for me as well. Every time I will go, but this time was for my mom, so I'm gonna have her share her story and her journey from this retreat.
Start off with some of the
My pains. Tomorrow you will say you will sleep here. Uh, مساء الخير. Uh, next time I'm gonna bring her because she's saying she's dragging me over here. Look, I have so many issues: headaches, fibromyalgia, high blood pressure, uh, something with the عضلة القلب. Uh, yeah. So my مفاصل, yeah, my joints, all of them, my bones are very hurtful. You know, uh, sometimes I don't feel like opening my eyes just to see. You know, look, I don't want to look. I got really depressed, but I feel safe at home. I feel like it is a jacket. I'm wearing it. If I take it off, I'm gonna get cold. So, thanks to them, they made me get out of that bottle. So now I feel better, very much better, and thanks to God first, and then them.
what we do is we have all the schools that we don't take advantage of. So a group of healers circled her. Not only did they share the same vision, explain that, they felt her pain, even though she didn't share any of her pain for them. But then at the end, there was nothing but love.
Oh yeah, I do love people. I don't, I do love everybody in here, even though you don't know me, I don't know you. I feel love. I'm full of love for everybody. I am full of love. Uh, when we closed our eyes and uh, Brother Hussein started to talk, and I was focusing with him. I need I need something to catch on so I can get hope in this life. So he was talking and talking, I'm focusing, and he said through the talking, if you find a door, get out from that door while we are closing our eyes. So the dua was going on and he was talking. And I started to feel like I was somebody is lifting me from the chair. Oh my goodness. Then I saw myself in a castle. شو castle ما في منه أنا I didn't see even like it in this life, you know and I was like a butterfly uh, going through that castle, and it takes everybody that I had that night, that so and then I turned my face. I saw myself in a bigger castle. Oh my God, where am I? For real. The castle had balconies inside, not outside the castle. And there is a lot of lights, beautiful lights. Also, the tunnels, all of you, the tunnels are dark, but my tunnels, all of them, it's about 3 or 4, I passed them. They were really lit. There was light in them. I saw like my way clearly. Then I saw a part of Kaaba, which is I didn't tell you, brother. The 4 mosques, you know what I mean? Not the Kaaba itself, but the mosques next to it. اللي بيروحوا بيروحوا that I didn't go to Hajj. Inshallah بروح يا رب. So that part was empty, كله very clean, uh, so I can run in it. It's all mine, like it is all my space. My space. I was so happy to run there. I was running here and there, like I want to find somebody to play with, like a kid. I was like a kid. Then I saw a big spider like this. هيدي شو اسمها؟ What did you call it? Yeah, yeah, with lot of legs, standing there on the wall with a spot of dirt only, equal to it, equal to the whatever. أنا باحب الناس تضحّك for real. والله باحب إنه هيك أحس إنه أنا قلبي عم يفرح من جوا. So oh thank you حبيبي لي أنتِ. آه. Oh, also I saw a pair of shoes, like, glass, but shoes for babies. I was so glad. I wanted to catch them, but I was like passing by them. Also, I forgot. Anyways,
Salawat.
اللهم صل على روح النبي.
If somebody would have given you a video a week before the retreat and showed you that you're on stage, smiling, happy, saying, I'm a child again, what would you have told that person?
Oh, I am a child. Please let me be a child.
But a week before that, when I asked
No,
her that question, she
I'm
said,
not.
impossible.
Oh, I'm
No
not.
way.
Oh, for sure.
When she got that vision, when the prayer works, you no longer care about your back pain.
Oh, yeah.
You no longer care about anything but Allah. The key is when you change your expectation for appreciation. That's all she did. She said, Allah, I appreciate you. When she went through that door, it's scary, but on the other side, it's freedom. Most people do what she does. I'm stuck in a house. This is my life. I'm not going to change. I'm going to wake up to the same thoughts, same person, same relationship.
But you know what? And yet, for real, when the retreat was starting, I didn't even think about my pains. I thought about Allah if He is Radi Anni. Wallah al-Azim.
What do you think? Does Allah show mercy and pleased with her?
Oh,
Look at her
yeah.
joy.
Ya
Now
Habibi.
you might underestimate, but think about it. Look at the potential of even an older person. Very hard to change their ways. If she could change and come up on stage and says, "My pain is gone. I'm healed. I feel joy."
Oh, yeah, I feel
So if
joy.
it's possible for her, is it possible for you? Oh,
It's possible for everybody. If you want to try it, just think about Allah on the moment of the retreat. You know what I mean? Just think, forget yourself, forget, for real. Anyways, ما في إلا الله. ما في إلا الله وبس. No صحة, no nothing without Allah, nothing.
صلوا على محمد.
وأنا بحبكم كتير بدون ما تعرفوني. حبيبي.
And if I would have told her, not only are you going to come up and smile, but you're going to put a smile on everybody's face. So, thank you. So, we can talk about the visions and so on, but the key is to feel love. The key is when you are in relationships with people, how do you know if they love you? Is even on the hard times. To have that connection with Allah, that she broke the habit of being herself, that person that she was for years. Her brain took a snapshot of trauma that I lost my loved one. And then she forgot it. It was Allah that gave her the loved one of her husband. It was Allah that put that love. And then when she felt that in one meditation, her whole body upregulated. So you could upregulate your genes to thought alone and you break the habit of being yourself with the purpose of you connecting and creating new habits of connecting to Allah. That's the purpose. That's all you're here for. And when she goes into these barzakhi realms, these other dimensions, those dimensions, that's why barzakh is a deja vu moment. So right when she dies, when she leaves this world and she's in barzakh, she may go where she was there 2 weeks ago. So because just like in a dream, you have a dream and 3 weeks later you're like, wait, this is a deja vu. I had this dream already. Well, that's the next world, the prophet has told us. It's gonna be deja vu. It already exists, you already saw everything. You were just too blind. So today we're gonna go on that journey. So some people are on their phones. Please just put your phones away, give it your best for the next half hour, 40 minutes. I'm gonna take you on a journey. It's gonna be very focused on the Holy Quran, what Allah is telling us. You are your actions, you are your deeds. Leave no doubt. What are the characteristics that you have within you that's keeping you away from that reality? And then next week, it'll be a little bit more positive in the reverse. So let's tell the person next to you doing your best. Go ahead. We're going to skip this. Can you commit to live in a godly state even? And if I have time, I will come to this. This is Imam Sadiq talking about how this world can deceive you. You're not supposed to hate this world, but it's very clever. Shaitan uses it to deceive you. Every one of you, especially me. Everybody here is deceived in a certain way. And the Imam beautifully states how this world comes after us, how Shaitan uses it as a tool. And we're all being attacked moment to moment. That's your trial. Allah says this life is difficult, big. He compared it to the liver. And what's the hardest organ in the body? It works the hardest. It's the liver. Allah says you're gonna be tried. And she felt her safe place. She says, my safe place is my home. I don't want to be tried. But when you don't, and you put yourself in isolation, you become miserable. But then when she decided to change expectations of life, appreciation, her whole life changed. So, can you commit to live to a godly state? When? I'm going to go quick. because there's so much to cover today. When they don't go my way. Do you notice, when do we forget about Allah? When things don't go your way. But Allah says, what if your way is not the best way? Because Allah says in the Quran, you might like something, but it might be bad for you. And something might be bad for you, that it might be good for you. How many times I've been dealing a lot with marriages the past 3 weeks. And this one brother gave me the permission. He told me 2 months ago, came to me, he says, can you talk to my wife? So he started talking to me, and I realized that he's got the issue. Then she says, well, my wife has nowhere to go. She's got a 7th grade education. What is she going to do? I said, but what if Allah takes me? So he didn't take my advice, and he did something he shouldn't have. So guess what happened? Allah showed him that I'm taking care of your wife. So then he came back humbly and he said, oh my God, you were right. Allah is now taking care of her. Okay, now I need your help to get my wife back and my 5 kids. Why? Because of what we're going to go over today. We all go through that. One of the ways that we go through that is when things don't go our way, then we think what she said, God's not pleased with me. God's not pleased with me, then there's despair. And that's one of the worst things to have. Okay, Allah, you're not pleased with me, I'm going to leave my prayers. You're not pleased with me, I'm going to dress differently today. You're not pleased with me, I'm going to stay bad. Because at least I could have my desires fulfilled. And that's where addiction comes. Why do you think people start gambling? Why do you think people start drinking? Why do you think people start doing haram things? They're looking to be fulfilled. So when things don't go your way, you start fulfilling the body. How do we do that? Through food, through the things that we watch. We become animals. And what we fail to realize is we're all born as animals, trying to be human beings. We think we're human beings. We're not. You're an animal. And hopefully by the end of this discussion, I can prove it to you and tell you what is the steps that you're going to have to take to become a human being. Because it is not certain that you'll be resurrected as a human being. There's a famous hadith of the Prophet that we're going to go over. So when things don't go your way, expectation, you don't have gratefulness, we forget about Allah. What's the other one? 2 main reasons why we don't commit to a godly state. When things don't go your way, what's the other one? When my desires are leading me astray. God tells me don't go to the casino. I went to a Pistons game with my son. You know where there are advertisements everywhere? About what? Gambling. Everywhere. And all the athletes now are promoting it. We already know majority of the youth don't pray. We already know majority of the youth are going to watch haram and indecency. Now guess what majority of the youth are going to do? Gamble. And now it's instant. By the way, that's how suicide happens. Just press a click buttons, bank account was wiped out, I have a family to feed, I'm going to commit suicide because of that. That's coming. It's already happened in other states when they started gambling before us. Gambling is pretty new for us. Wait another few years because they're marketing it now. In the subconscious, they know how to attack. Get ready. Why? Because we allow our low desires to control us. Who allows low desires to control? Animals. So when people behave that way, when I behave that way, when you behave that way, you have to tell yourself, right now, I'm an animal. And if I were to die right now, I would be resurrected as an animal. And now I'm going to prove it. They're not my words, Allah's. So Allah says, you're going to be tested. Love is when you put others before yourself. Children. She put Allah in front of herself. As soon as she did that, because we do it for our children all the time. But imagine instead of only doing it for your children, you learn how to do it for Allah. How do you do that? You put your own desires aside for what Allah wants. That's what love is. Don't we do it for children all the time? Yes or no? So you do have that characteristic. If I tell you your child is sick, you got to stay up all night, would you do it? Would you even sleep if your child has got a huge issue? If your husband has had a huge issue, would you leave? No, that's called love. My mom showed that to me. My dad was in the hospital. Visiting hours didn't apply to my mom. She never left the hospital when he got a stroke. She was in the hospital for 90 days, never left. That's love. The law says, okay, you have that for human beings. Do you have that for Allah? The only way you will know is when you're tested. That when your body wants to do one thing, do you decide to do something else? That's how you elevate yourself. We don't believe in that. That's why we go back in our old ways. Somebody says, okay, you want your problem solved? Wake up in the morning and pray. Why do most people don't wake up in the morning and pray if it's going to control their destiny? Because they don't what? Believe. If you believe me and I never lied, and I say you wake up in the morning every day at 6 a.m. and I'll give you $1 million, and I've never lied, would you wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning? You wouldn't even go to sleep. Yes or no? But for $1 million, you'd wake up. You wouldn't even sleep. And you'd wake up excited because there's something I'm going to give you. Yes or no? That's why she said it felt like a child. Because when you're a child and your parents tell you, we're going to go somewhere tomorrow, we're going to go on a vacation tomorrow, you wake up excited because there's something new. Guess what? Allah's given you life, which is worth more than $1 million. Allah says, wake up excited. The prophets and imams would wake up. We're good. That's it. We're good, guys. We're good. Thank you. The prophets and imams woke up excited because there was something new. Same with your life. She found something new. You know what she found? She found that people she's never met, strangers, were willing to will stay up at 11:30 at night after a long day and pray around her for 1 hour. People she never saw before. And she allowed herself to escape and allow herself to no longer be attached to this body. She found love. When's the last time you felt that love from Allah? And if you don't feel it, guess what? Guess what you're going to replace that love with? Anger. And you won't even know why. What's wrong? I'm in a mood. What's wrong? I don't know. But your fitrah that's within you hasn't been woken up, and it's telling you, wake me up. And the only way to wake up is by living Allah's way. No other way. There is no other way. The only way to do that is if you love Allah. Many people pray. Many people wear hijab. How do you know they're not doing it because their parents forced them to do it? Or they're doing it because that was a ritual that they learned, which is okay. But are they doing it out of love? And I always say, even most people who pray, what's the number one characteristic they feel after they're done praying? Relief. And we need to change that. You shouldn't feel relieved after you're done praying. Imagine your mom come to you and say, I'm so relieved you're going away to college. How would the child feel? You know, that's how most people feel when they're done praying. What happened? You know what happened? We forgot to ask Allah, show me something by doing these rituals that I'm so connected to you that I don't need anybody else. Because I am nothing, Allah. I'm a manifestation of you. And I'm solely dependent on you. And everything is nothing outside of Allah. This chair, people abuse this chair because Allah says everything Allah creates can speak. This chair on the next life could speak against you. Your problem is we're so physical and attached to this physical world, this body, you think it's just this. Thus, you say, oh, there is nothing else, so let me fulfill this body. And that's where shaitan gets you and deceives you. All right. Muhammad Sadiq said, this world is like seawater. The more a thirsty man drinks from it, the more it kills him. And what kills him? That you become an animal. We all know, like Netanyahu, animal. Can he kill enough Palestinians? Will he be satisfied? No. So he's dead. You can't wake him. When he dies, he'll be manifested to that animal. Don't worry, he will get his punishment. Allah, the greatest thing Allah has given us. People say, why does all this injustice happen? Allah says it's a blink of an eye. All those kids that have died back with me, I'm taking care of them. Allah says, I'm the one. You're my property. I've given you this limited free will. What are you doing about it? What are you going to do for the people of Palestine? What are you doing for the people that are around you now? So recite whenever you came. So this is the end part of this ayah. So whatever you came from it and continue to perform regular prayers, pay tax, and lend to Allah a good loan. You can give Allah a loan. How? Through your good deeds. What you've basically done now, Allah says it's wajib on me to repay you. You pray on time, I'm going to take care of you. You've helped somebody, I'm going to take care of you. You called somebody that you haven't called in a while, I'm going to take care of you. Allah says you've given a loan to Allah. How do you give a loan to Allah? Everything you do is dependent on Allah. Look how merciful He is. Every time you do a good deed, Allah makes sure to repay you 10 times. But it has to be done Allahly. It can't be done for the body. Oh, the reason why I was good to this person, we had that friend. We knew when I was growing up, we had a friend. Whenever he would do a good deed, he would call us all. He says, come on, I'm taking you guys out to, it would either be Benihana's or Red Lobster. And it'd be like an 8 or there was a place called, I forgot what it was, downtown Detroit. Really fancy restaurant. But then we all laughed at each other because when we'd say, watch what happens after 3 days. Guess what he would do after 3 days? He'd call us all up. Hey, he would call one after another, and we would all feel guilty. Say, can I have 300 bucks, 500 bucks? So the first time we didn't tell each other, but then after a while we picked up on it. So he doesn't get any deeds for that. Allah doesn't give a loan to Allah. Allah doesn't owe him anything because he did that with the string attached. But the main point of this ayah, you'll find it with Allah far better and more rewarding. So Allah says, whatever good you send forth from yourselves, you will find it with Allah far better and more rewarding. And seek Allah's forgiveness. So Allah is basically telling, if you have patience to overcome your low desires, what's to come? Forget the next world, even though it exists right now. This world, Allah says that you could create paradise. This world. I've never met a gambler who's happy. I've never met a cheater who cheats on his spouse or vice versa, ever happy. I've never met somebody who lies happy. I've never met somebody who robs people happy, ever. Because the Imam says it's like thirsty water. You'll never be fulfilled. So what are you trying to do? Allah says, if you have, which is a noble trait we talked about last week, patience. Do you have the patience to let things and let Allah plan it for you? What's one thing that we've lost in this community? Patience. I need it right now. Yes or no? And if I don't get it right now, then I've just changed and I've become very angry. And I'm going to make sure the world knows it. All right. Next ayah. This worldly life is no more than a plain amusement. Allah's telling you, be careful. You could have a lot of fun in this world. You could fulfill your low desires. When the Prophet would meet people and they would like, something would fall in the house and it wouldn't break. And the Prophet, the person said, yeah, I don't go through trials. Nothing bad happens. The Prophet left the house as this bala here. Meaning he's lost almost God's mercy because he's not being tried. So yeah, you could go through life and try to avoid trials, try to make millions of dollars, and try to be greedy and selfish. Paul says, yeah, that's plain amusement. But the hereafter is in real life, if you only. So Allah is saying, it's the hereafter that's real, not this one. This is fleeting. It's going. Allah is going to crumble it. Allah says this world is base. Your body could only handle this world. Can't handle other dimensions. That's why you leave the body behind. It's the lowest form that you will live on. That's why you're allowed to sin on this world. It's the only dimension where you're allowed to sin. You're allowed to lie, steal, cheat, get away with things. You think you could do that in the next world? No. So Allah says, what are you going to do as an animal to try to elevate yourself in this world to become a human being? Indeed, we have warned you of an imminent punishment. The day of every person will see the consequence of what their hands have done. And the disbelievers will cry, I wish I were dust. What's one of the ways Shaitan gets us? We have a we have we, we have small kids. So pandemic of people watching haram. Nobody, when they do it, nobody's thinking that they'll get caught. But if they ever get busted by their wife or somebody, what's the sense? What's the feeling that they get? Embarrassment, shame. Question: why didn't they feel the shame when they were doing it? Yeah, but wait, don't we think that Allah is always watching us? But guess what? We're not watching Allah. We don't see Allah. Imam Ali says, I don't worship a Lord that I don't see. Doesn't see him from where? Heart. So when you're doing haram, when you're gambling, when you're watching haram, when you're gossiping, when you're backbiting, you're doing anything, it's at that moment you have to catch yourself. Says, oh, I don't see Allah. I've completely come blind. And as soon as I die, the only thing I'm going to care about is what? Your relationship with who? Your relationship with your mom, your dad, your kids. You think you're going to care about that? We all agree. Then why is it in our lowest moments we forget about Allah? Are we that animalistic? And I talk to myself first that when we're doing haram in any way, we just solely so forget that the one who created us. How embarrassing. But what's interesting, if our mom was right in front of us, or if our kids were right in front of us, would we behave that way? But then Allah's always in front of us. What is it about this self, this body, that we lose our connection with our fitrah, that we destroy our barzakh? What is it about our arrogance, thinking we're going to get away with it? I promise you, you're not. I'm not. I promise you. And not only we're not, Allah says you will see the consequences. And you're going to wish you were dust if you don't fix this now. Not like now. Everybody here has a habit that they have to change. The reason why I'm so adamant, I'm tired. I'm seeing so many marriages being thrown in the dumpster because a man or a woman's stupid low desires. That there's just so much selfishness and self-centeredness that it's okay. I'm going to hurt my kids. That's what addiction is. Doing something you don't care about anybody at the moment. Even if you don't care about the outcome because you know the outcome is bad. Why am I doing marriage counseling? How? I've been doing it for so long. I've never lost a marriage where both couples want to change. Why should I be doing it? Sometimes I think, and this last 3 weeks has completely wrecked my energy. I'm very, on top of what's happening in Palestine, seeing people just destroy their lives. They have children. Over what? Because they're animals. I'm including myself. And unless we change ourselves first, and the arrogance now with even the teenagers, the things that they're doing that they're trying to get away with behind their parents' back, they really feel that it's something that's just going to go, you're going to forget about it. God says, I don't forget. Everything is tracked. If you do one misstep that hurts yourself and your soul, it could have an effect for the rest of your life unless you ask for forgiveness. And what's one reason why we won't ask for forgiveness? Because of what? Arrogance. And then what's really bad is when people ask for forgiveness, other humans who they've hurt won't forgive them. They hold on to it. I say, good luck with that. You want Allah to forgive you, but another human being hurt you. You don't want to forgive them? So whatever does an atom's weight of good, we'll see it. Allah says everything you do, the smallest particle, an atom, we will see it. Nothing. What happens is we're behaving in a way where we really so forget that we really think that Allah is so merciful that I could get away with anything. You know what that's called? When you commit haram, knowing that you're a practicing Muslim, you know what that's called? Arrogance at the highest form. That you think you're going to be exempt from Allah's punishment. That's what Netanyahu thinks. He believes in God, maybe, but he really thinks he's on God's favor. Brown, same thing. They really, really, Pharaoh believed in God. And coming into his palace, you would have signs of God. But yeah, he was so arrogant. And there's another ayah, and that each person will only have what they went towards, endeavored towards. What does that mean? Everything you do, every deed, moment to moment, is what you will have. That's your next life. Nothing else. It's your deeds. So Allah is telling you, your Kiama, your resurrection, you are going towards it right now, at this moment. And depending on the person that you are. Now, if you think there's things about you that you don't have to change and that you're perfect, and if you die, you're okay, that's when you really know you have a problem. Next ayah. Watch for the day when every soul will be presented with whatever good it has done. So you're going to get whatever is good. And it will wish that its misdeeds were far off. You're going to think when you watch the or when you backbite, or when you didn't forgive that person that asked for forgiveness, or when you betrayed somebody or hurt somebody, you think it's going to be far off. Guess where it's going to be? Right there. And you're going to wish you could run away from it, and you can't. And Allah warns you about Himself, and Allah is ever gracious to His servants. So it exists right now. You're creating it. Here's the proof. Allah is telling you it's within your deeds, moment to moment. And the record of deeds will be laid open, and you'll see the wicked fear of what is written in it. What will it have? You're going to have what? Fear. Now, is fear a bad thing? It depends. We're going to talk about it. They will cry, woe to us. What kind of record is it that does not leave any sin, small or large, unlisted? Meaning everything. You might not get punished for it, but everything will be in front of you. That's why right when you commit a sin, try to ask for forgiveness right away. That way the angels don't write it. The angels will get rid of it. If you keep and you don't ask for forgiveness right away, then it could be written. They will find whatever they did present before them, and your Lord will never wrong anyone. Now, do we all agree that our deeds, good and bad, are coming with us in the next life? Why? Because Allah said so. So I don't care if you're 78 years old, you reflect on your life and you think about the things that you did, and you ask for forgiveness before you leave this world. It's our arrogance that don't make us reflect on our past mistakes to say, Allah, forgive me for this. When I was 20, I did this to this person. Allah, forgive me. I still carry it. How do you make sure you don't live in that negative state of fear now? So there's a positive and a negative fear. How do you make sure you don't live in the negative? Then I'm going to talk about the positive. First, if you leave awareness unharnessed and how to go into the future and create situations in your mind that cause you by fear, you put yourself in a mental state absorbed in fear. What does that mean? Simply, my husband, I busted him having an emotional relationship with somebody. Okay. He asked for forgiveness and he's been good for a year. No mistakes. But then your husband decides to go out with his friends. Where does your mind go? What's he doing? Who is he talking to? Why didn't he call me back? So did your mind just create a bunch of fear of things that probably are not true? That's what negative fear does. Is you think of something in the future that doesn't exist. And you make it up because of the trauma of your past. That's why I'm sorry. If you find a counselor, make sure they're an expert in how to deal with trauma. Most counselors don't deal with trauma properly. Relationships that have a history of abuse. So now what we talked about that. There's three things to do. So let's say you're in a negative relationship with your mom, with your wife, with your husband, with whoever. Because of past trauma, you made some misdeeds. So now what do? So when somebody makes a mistake, let's say the wife catches the husband doing something or vice versa, or you catch your kids, what's the first emotion that you throw out? Anger. How do you know you're in a divine relationship? Anything but anger. You change expectations for appreciation. Thank Allah that He exposed something about somebody that you can now help. Do we look at it that way when we're hurt? Usually, when we get hurt, what's the first emotion? It's about what? Us. We decide to suffer because somebody is telling you that they're destroying their Kiama. They just did haram. They just hurt themselves. And instead of worrying about them, who's the only person you're worried about? They hurt who? Where the Prophet ﷺ says, I never behaved this way. People threw garbage at me, people hurt me, but I saw in their soul, I went and prayed for them. Why is that in the West so far-fetched? What? My husband cheated? You want me to show love and compassion? If my kids did haram and I caught him going after some girl, I should show love and compassion? Oh, why? Because anger really is going to make things work? Show me. Show me where when you've had anger that's fixed the situation in your life. You know what the only thing that does is it takes you away from Allah. Because you've had expectations that weren't met, and because of that, now I'm angry at Allah and I'm going to take it out on my spouse. Where the Ahl Bayt never behaved this way. Ahl Bayt married women. The Imams married women who they knew were going to poison them. And they drank the poison knowing only to save Tawheed, to save Islam for us. And yet they still showed compassion towards them, knowing they were going to do this. So what's our excuse? So the first is you can't get angry. No matter what, Shaitan's got you. The only time you can get angry is for Allah. You get angry at what's happening in Palestine, and if you could fight, then you fight for Allah. That's the only time you get angry. That's one of our powers, the power of anger. You raise the bar. Usually I behave this way when this happens. Because of fear, instead of always questioning my husband or questioning my kids, this is how I'm going to raise the bar. That's the second. What's the third? I would love it if. Why can't you just talk to your kids or your spouse? I would love it if you could do the laundry for me today. I would love it if you could wash the dishes. Now, don't do it in negative. I would have loved it if you would have did this yesterday. That's a negative. But I would love it. Why can't we behave like Ahl Bayt? Why do we have to be like animals that when expectations don't get met? So talk to the person next to you and tell them how you're going to apply these three things when things don't go your way. Go. How are you going to raise the bar and behave differently? Okay, anybody would like to share? Quickly, because there's so much to cover. Anybody would like to share how they're going to have anything but anger moving forward, raising the bar and saying, I would love. Going once? Okay. I won't pick on anybody today because of time. So reflect when it happens. The first step in overcoming fear is moving awareness out of the fear area of the mind with our will and with our willpower of concentration. That then provides us with the opportunity to begin to examine what is the root cause of that fear. You can't understand fear while you're in fear. That's the key. When it happens and you get triggered, guess what you don't have to do? Respond. How does a cigarette smoker stop smoking cigarettes? When he gets the feeling, when he gets the feeling of smoking a cigarette, animal, does he have to fulfill that animalistic desire? Yes or no? No. What will happen after 2 hours of that feeling? Goes away. For the first 3 days, you can't be around them. They're the most miserable human being because they're trying to quit. Guess what happens after 2 weeks? I've helped one guy quit smoking for 20 years. He did nicotine patches. He tried everything. All I told him, this is all you have to do. And I also told him it'll be somebody else at his daughter's wedding, not him. Every time you're about to have a cigarette, make sure you're telling that cigarette that that desire is more important than the other desire. That's how I helped another person lose 100 pounds. Same thing. Right when you're about to do something haram, you have to account that you're selfish, self-centered at that moment. And if you don't start thinking and becoming conscious of that, then you go back to your old self and you're going to have the same life. Don't ask for Allah to change things in your life if you're going to stay the same. Your personality determines your personal reality. If you don't like your reality, you have to change your personality. Repeat what I just said with the person next to you. Your personality determines your personal reality. If you don't like your reality, you have to change your quickly. So, that's a famous line from Joe Dispenza. But do you know who made up that line? Allah. Allah says, don't ask me to change your affairs until you change. Our arrogance tells us, what's wrong with me? I got abused. I got cheated on. I got hurt. You know how hard it is when a wife wants to leave her husband because the husband did some misstep? And then I tell the wife, you know, you have to change. I don't even want to meet your husband until after 40 days of you changing. What? Me? Imagine how hard it is to convince a woman to do something nice to her husband who just cheated on. I said, okay, who are you going to go get advice from? Be careful who you get advice from, please. Because everybody's going to tell you from the state of pain, oh, I wouldn't ever deal with that. Yeah, well, let's see 5 years from now if he moves on and you're still now dealing with the kids. Have you painted that picture? Are you sure you haven't tried everything before you left him? What happens is we don't even try one thing. And now even our scholars in our community are so fed up. They're like, okay, you want a divorce? Okay, just make an appointment. All right, I'll hear you. Okay. Yes or no? How easy is it now to get a divorce? Well, back before they would work. I know Sheikh Ilahi in the community does a really good job. And there's Sheikh, the one in Islamic Center of America, Ahmad Hamoud. He does a really good job. You know, even Said Kazwini, they do a good job. But sometimes they get tired. Like, okay, essential needs. Now, imagine you've been hurt because you're put in fear. Now everything is a potential threat because from your childhood you were told to fear everything. And because you never were good enough. You got a 98%, what happened to the other 2%? And anything you did was judged. Why'd you do that? You know, one of the worst things you can tell people constantly every day? Why? Your husband asks you why every day. Why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? That's abuse. Whenever somebody does that on a basis, you know what you tell them back? I felt like it. Because that's why I did it. I didn't feel like it, would I have done it? Right now, we use the whys as parents. We don't realize we abuse. Why'd you touch your sister this way? Why didn't you do your homework? Why are you crying right now? So how do you make sure your children don't live in the same fear that you live in right now? Some of you are still scared to even allow your kids to go around the block. Some of you are scared to allow your kids to go to Harvard or Ann Arbor if they get accepted. And you forget it's not you taking care of your kids. Who it isn't? Allah. But you've allowed your fears from your childhood and from what society has told you to dictate your future, even for your children. How do you make sure your children don't end up with the state fear? There's 3 things you have to do. Ready? Safe, secure relationship with parents who are emotionally present with them. Are you this? Even if you don't have children right now. When you're with your parents and your friends, are you this? Or are you just that person? As soon as your husband says one wrong word or your kids say one wrong thing, it's World War II. What you say? Don't you hate that? Where somebody makes you feel like they could be vulnerable around you? And as soon as you say one wrong thing, what do you do with it? They attack it. That is one of the worst and the most toxic relationships. Usually, narcissistic people do that. They're just waiting for something to take advantage of. And that's the most, make sure you never do that to your kids. Your kid is crying, allow him to cry. Don't say, "Why are you crying?" You figure that out. Maybe you made him cry. What do? We judge kids when they have these emotional. And then what you do is they suppress their emotions because you got mad at them. Well, guess what's going to happen when they get older? Oof. Not only it's going to act, they're going to be messed up with other relationships. It causes physical conditions, cancer, Lou Gehrig disease, all these types of if you're not allowed to emotionally express yourself. That was Ahl Bayt. The child does not have to work to make the relationship work. They could be at rest. Your kid doesn't have to get an A or do his bed or be perfect to make the relationship work. He doesn't need to know if you're having a good day or a bad day to make the relationship work. That's your spouse's job, not your kid's job. How dare your parents that come in and say, "Not today, I can't have it today." You decided to have kids. So there is no days off for you. But for your kid, it shouldn't be work for your kid to get his attention and love from you. That's abuse. Thus, the reason why most kids don't pray. Why most kids? Because they've never felt that emotional love from their family and their parents. Thus, they're never going to feel it from Allah. Am I making sense? Freedom of the child to express all emotions. Not saying, "Why are you crying?" Don't do that. Don't women hate that when husbands say, "Why are you crying? What's the big deal?" Don't we hate that? But when we become frustrated, we our kid doesn't want to do homework and he starts crying about it, what do? We make it worse or better? Much worse. Because we're what? Frustrated. And now it's about me. Yes, the new math. I excel. If the fear area of the mind is nurtured, then that will be one of the default places that awareness goes in challenging situations. Poor decisions are made here, resulting in even poor outcomes. If you go into a state of fear and now you're angry, you're always going to make a poor decision. You know who does that? Gamblers. They start betting. This one guy bankrupted his whole income. Said, "I started betting and I was winning a little bit by little bit. Then I lost and I got angry." So what did he decide to do with his anger? Bet more or less? More. He lost again. Did he get angrier? So now he's making decisions out of fear and anger. Is that going to be a pretty dumb decision? He said within 20 minutes, everything was wiped out. All because of that. Now imagine that's just him losing his own money. Imagine how many relationships we burn because we're within anger and fear. We can't step out and we have to respond. We have to say something. Yes? Don't beat it. That's how you mess up your Kiama, when you behave like an animal, because that's what an animal does. When an animal is in fear and in anger, what is it going to do? Is it going to say, is it going to show compassion or is it going to bite you? Bite. Why do we behave like animals? So then, in summary, every time you find awareness going into the future and creating a situation in your mind that causes you to feel fear, use your indomitable willpower to bring awareness back. That's the key. As soon as you leave, you come back. That's how you know you're starting to become a human being. Oh my God, I didn't respond to that desire body. I used my fitra, my consciousness, and I didn't have to do that thing. That's how you know you overcome addiction. You don't have to watch haram every night. Some people are addicted to that. I don't have to respond to something that my wife may have done that was foolish. I could let it go. Wow. And that's what I do with my kids. My kids are fighting and they're arguing. especially when they were younger, because they weren't getting along. I told my wife, let me do it. And now, alhamdulillah, they're much better. But there was a time where they were going through that phase. What I would do is I would allow them to have their moment. Then at night, I would share a story with them. There was these two people in the castle. They were playing together, but then the one person took the toy and they got angry and they slammed the door and then they hit it. Dad, are you talking about us? I don't know, am I? And then you would see the next day where one of them would be angry and you see my other daughter catch herself. That's consciousness. That's enlightenment. And they say, oh, wow, it worked. And when you have those small wins and you realize you don't have to respond, it's okay. What's Shaitan telling you? No, respond now. Why are there people in prison? Why are there people murdered? Because people think they have to respond right now. Shaitan makes you think it's going to last forever. Allah says you won't even remember in a week what you fought about. You know that. You won't if you let it go. But if you act on it, you'll never forget it. And it could carry you with you in the next life. How foolish are we? The win is fair, a good thing. So the point, last week we talked about patience. There's 3 levels of patience. Patience towards your obligations, patience towards the wajib, and patience towards the trials of life. And what's the biggest one? Patience towards avoiding sin. Because your body wants to do it. Do you have the patience to say, no, not today? It could be anything. You could tell that donut, no, not today. Whatever it is. That's all Allah wants. Allah says, oh, you changed that one moment? Okay, I'm in debt with you. Watch how I make your next move. Our problem is we don't believe it. We don't give ourselves even a chance. Why? Because most likely our parents didn't give us a chance. Thus, they were helicopter parents, and they were watching your every step, and they never trusted you. How are you ever going to trust yourself? Your parents are the ones who told you, I can't trust you. Make sense? By the way, tape recording your kids, spying on them is forbidden in Islam. Just letting you know. So who are you? Animals trying to be humans. That's who you are. You have to admit that. You are an animal trying to be a human being. How do I know? Everybody here, including me, there's been a time where our desires have taken over our mind. Yes or no? So that means at that moment, you are an animal trying to be a human being. We're all in that state. So the idea is that human beings have inner qualities that give them the potential to be great. So right now, you are given this existence with the potential of being great. How? You have to have the noble ethics. One of them is patience. The other one is truthfulness. You have to be true to yourself that, wait, bad day today. I talked back to my mom. I spoke to somebody that I didn't do. You have to be truthful. Because if you don't reflect in that moment, Shaitan's going to make you forget it. And then that becomes your new habit. To become truly superior, reach their best self, they must work on improving inner qualities. Just having the potential for good traits like kindness, honesty isn't enough. These traits have to go into action. You can't just be kind to the person who delivers your mail. That's easy. You can't just be kind to the waiter or your boss. Can you be kind even when you don't feel like it? That's the key. Can you be kind to somebody who abuses you? We agree that the prophet was kind to the people who abused you, right? Abused them, right? Yes or no? We all know the stories that I could spend the next hour sharing. Yes or no? So can you become like the prophet? Like when I tell somebody, your body's telling you to smoke hookah. I know it's touchy. But question, can you ever in a million years see the prophet smoking hookah? Okay. Can you ever want your kids to smoke cigarettes or hookah? While the guy is smoking hookah, what will he say? No. So then what is it about you that's how you know you have an animalistic desire? By the way, that's a good one because that's something that you could easily overcome. And at least that one is only causing damage to yourself. But at least that's one thing you say, oh, that's something I could start with. Swearing. Can you ever picture this prophet swearing? Ever? So say, okay, that's one noble trait I'm gonna start. I'm gonna stop swearing. Can you ever Imagine the prophet belittling his wife and be condescending and be sarcastic. Yes or no? So you say, okay, that's the one thing. You just pick one. All Allah wants you to do is pick one small thing. The prophet was asked. So this is what I'm going to go over, and then I'll finish the other part of the lecture next week. We're going to end with this. The prophet was asked, the day the horn is blown, you will come forth in groups. So you're resurrected, horn is blown, you will be lifted. And there's a part that most will go towards the good groups. But then the prophet told the companion, that's a good question. Who are the groups? Let me tell you who the bad groups are. He said there's 10. You ready to see? When the prophet was given this narration, he was crying. Because he suffered more than anybody, because he would look at you and he'd see a monkey, he'd see a pig, he'd see a cow. He said, what's wrong with these people? Why are they putting themselves in hell? And to the prophet, hell was a big circle of sin. It was so obvious. And he kept seeing people throwing themselves at the hell, because hell exists right now. And that's why he suffered. And he would cry for you. Says, I came as a mercy for you to improve your noble moral trait. That's it. As a woman, you're not going to be able to escape Kiama. Don't let Shaitan fool you. You'll be so easily forgiven. You've been fooled to think that. And that's why the Prophet suffered. He said, why these people should be next to me? And I'm in front of them and they're throwing themselves in hell. He couldn't change them. Many he did. The few he didn't hurt him. He would warn them. You're going to fight me at Badr. Don't do this. And what would the person would be? He'd be fighting him in the battle of Badr. He says, I warned you. And that person would end up in hell. He fought the Prophet. The Prophet warned him. Your parents warn you. Your spouse warns you. You're hurting yourself. Why don't we take that lesson? Because the body, Shaitan's got us. The body's in control. It's the master. And you're never going to be satisfied if you're creating your own hell. So who are the 10 groups? Ready? These are the people who didn't reach human status. You have to ask yourself, which one are you? You have to be sincere and say, wait, there is something I need. I don't want to die as an animal. I want to die as a human being. Because if the angel comes to you and he takes away things, you're going to be so angry at Allah before death because things were so taken because you're an animal. And you will lose your faith in all your good deeds, even at the last moment. And at that moment, you can't even ask for forgiveness. So you ready? Monkey. Why would somebody right now, if the Prophet could see you, it says in the Quran, when Prophet Ayub saw his sons, what would he see? Which animal? Who knows? Wolves. He saw wolves. That's why if you see a wolf in your dream, there's a reason. A lot of these dreams are for you. That's your Kiama, it could be. If you see an animal that's negative, that could be because you have that trait. So if you ever see the Imam wounded, that's because the Imam isn't happy with you. So remember, it's the Imam that's coming to resurrect to save Palestine. Remember, we have it in our narrations. He's going to be standing against the armies, and they're going to come and try to attack him. Imagine you being on that side. Right now, you're saying, I'm against what's happening in Palestine. But how do you know if you're truly against it? Is your deeds when you're alone, when nobody's watching. That's the only way to know you're pro-Palestine. Otherwise, it's just lip service. I don't know. Prophet Yusuf says, I just want to die a Muslim. It's a prophet of God. So what would make a monkey? What characteristic? Somebody guess. Telling jokes, playing all the time. This is what will make you a monkey. Gossip. If you're a gossip monger, that every phone call is gossip about, you know what happened here, you know what happened here, you'll be resurrected as a monkey. Then you'll be seeing human beings. You say, who is this person? Why are you a monkey? Remember me? I was the one that talked about everybody. Don't you all have that cousin or aunt, right? When you pick up the phone, why do you call her? Because she has all the juicy news. And you elevate yourself because she's demoting everybody. But you forget that she's going to do the same thing with you one day. So should you hang out with monkeys? And if you're a monkey, stop gossiping. This is not me saying it. This is the prophet warning us, make sure you're not a monkey. Now imagine the prophet come to you. He would look at you, he would see a monkey, and he would be silent because he knew you were ready for the advice. And he'd have to walk away. Imagine how sad. You know, when I'm in a meeting with an adult, usually older men, I take 5 minutes. I was like, no, this ain't happening. He's not here to listen. And I've done it to a point where I've told a kid he's gonna die. They don't change. And I had nightmares and they died. And I almost quit what I did. This almost didn't happen. If it wasn't for the father calling me, telling me don't stop, because I felt so sick and disappointed because the kid was such a pure kid. But I saw it. By the way, if anybody claims that they could see people as animals or anything, be very suspicious. It could happen because it's in the Quran, but be very suspicious of that. All right, so monkeys are gossip mongers. Do we all have to be careful not to gossip and be around people that gossip? But when you're smoking your arquile, what else is there to talk about? Pigs. How would you be resurrected as a pig? By the way, you're a pig right now if you have this quality. If you're a guy, you're a monkey right now, you just don't see it. What would make you a pig? Consume haram food, capital relationships. If you have a relationship in a haram way, you're a pig. If you take haram money, if you're making money off of drugs, marijuana, anything in the haram way, it will not bring you happiness. Somehow we've made it okay to sell marijuana, thinking it's okay in the community. I don't know where we get this from. Any type of haram living, you're a pig. Do we all have at least one pig in the family that we know for certain they've done haram? Yeah. But can you tell them they're a pig? No. You have to go. There's women in California, they pray on time. They don't pray with hijab and they don't pray in Arabic. So they're not following the obligations. But should I go and tell them, well, wait, that's a problem? Should I be mean to them and harsh? Or should I go with the soft approach? Tell me a time where the prophet never went with the soft approach. Every time. So just because people could be this doesn't mean you get to be harsh with them. Understood? Upside down. Your hands are in your feet, your hands and feet, you're upside down. You'll be looking, why are these people upside down? I'm going to quickly go through it because there's usury. They take advantage. They create usury. You're upside down. Why would people be blind in the next world? And their soul is blind right now. Transgressed against Sharia. They knew they had to do certain things. They were different than an atheist who was born an atheist or a Christian or a Jew. They knew, but they decided to ignore it and be blind to it because of their low desires. And you'll be resurrected as being blind. Yes. Yeah, the next world, barzakh, the grave, and the next world, heaven or hell. And right now, because it exists right now, moment to moment. That's why if you go in your dream and you're blind and you can't see, that means just take an obligation of Allah that you want to start doing. If you don't pray, you start praying. Just take one obligation and start doing it. Because Allah is telling you you're blind towards something. Deaf and dumb. Why would you be deaf and dumb in the next life? Self-conceit. Oh, when I was trying to do a marriage counseling this was probably 8 years ago. She should take the hijab off her head because she put it on because of me. I will accept her coming back home as soon as she has an abortion because I told her I don't want a black man as a husband. Self-conceit. You do something good for somebody and you think they owe you something. She's got a 7th grade education. Where is she going to go? You will be raised deaf and dumb. And the prophet said, look at all the times you got warned. Remember you came to wise? Remember you were tired? Remember he told you pay attention? Right? You were warned. See, it's different now. Allah is warning you. These are not my words. These are the prophet's words. You can't hold an excuse. Chew on their tongues. Who are the people in the next life they're going to be chewing on their tongues? Scholars, judges, me. I dare say something that I don't practice, you will see me chew on my own tongue. You'll be disgusted. Amputated hands and legs, who could guess? Harm their neighbor. If you're vicious with your neighbors, with the people that are close, because you're supposed to make friends with your neighbors, and you make sure that you're gossiping, you're backbiting, you're saying it's one of the worst things that you could do. Those who be crucified on branches of fire. Imagine the prophet is crying when he's giving you these 10 spies. Any type of spies. Do we have a lot of spies even in Lebanon? Do we have even spies in Palestine? Do we have spies? Do we have a lot of spies in this community? 100%. It's infiltrated. You're a spy. You'll be crucified on the branches of fire. Those who be crucified on the branches of fire, passions and lust. So there's another group. It's something to do with also being crucified in a different way. If your passions and lusts are controlled, you are controlled by them, and you can't think greater than the way you feel, you've really compromised. And that's the state that many people are in right now. Everything is feeling based. That's the way you feel, and so on. The, those who appear wearing clothes of fire, boastful and arrogant. I want to go. Okay, there's one thing I want to show you guys really quick. 5, 4, 3, because we're way over time. The other imam said there's 6 groups. There's one that I want to pay attention to. The pigs, sexual appetites towards the forbidden. Another way you'll be resurrected as a pig is your sexual appetite. And right now, this country's sexual appetite, if guys like guys, no problem. Girls like everything is sexual oriented, and you just follow that. You will be resurrected as a pig. You could be resurrected as a dog. They attack others with their tongues. We're scared to attack them back because they have leverage. Those are called dogs. Sheep, you follow aimlessly. You'll be resurrected as a sheep. Why did you do that? Why did you follow your friends? Why did you do that? Lions, the rulers of earth. Most rulers are lions. You'll be resurrected as a lion. Remember, like Netanyahu, any ruler is going to be resurrected probably as a lion. Remember, that's hell. Knowing I could have been amongst the angels, now I'm a lion. I'm not even a human being, I'm an animal. If a lion is born a lion, there's no hell because that's what it's supposed to do. Imagine right now you morph into a monkey, knowing you could have been amongst the angels. That's hell. A 40-year-old kid, his kids come to him and says, buy me a brand new car. I'm a straight A student. What's hell is you say, no, you can't afford it. Why? Because of your low desires when you were a teenager. You didn't want to control. You didn't finish college. You didn't become an entrepreneur. You didn't do something. And now you got to tell your kids no. That's hell. And if anybody thinks they're escaping from this animalistic state and then they're not changing, I'm telling you, that's the biggest lie you can tell yourself. I promise you, most of us are not human beings. Why? Because the prophet has told us. Does that mean you're going to hell? No. Barzakh is there. Question is, why even chance it? Why not just start making small micro changes? Next week, and that's what I was going to go over, how to become more truthful and compassionate. So next week, we're going to start. What are the things, the characteristics? We're going to go one by one before we start the next lesson. The next 3-4 weeks, it's all about the noble traits. It was about patience last week. This week is about truthfulness. How can you be true about yourself and say, which one am I? So what I want you to do, by the way, businessmen can be like wolves. They sell cheap, find faults, reverse with their own. If they want to sell something, it's high price. But if they want to buy something from you, they want to take advantage and look at faults. You'll be resurrected as a wolf. What do foxes do? They use religion as a means to earn money. You'll be a fox. So there's one thing I want us to end with. You don't have, I encourage you to do this. Which one, if you think you're one of these, which one do you think you are? Have there been times I probably was a monkey? Yeah. There have been times that I was probably a pig? Yep. Have there been times where I was blind? Yep. Which one do you think you say, okay, this one I potentially could be, but I'm not going to be? And I'm sorry I ran out of time because I didn't want to do this lecture without the next part of how to change that. But I promise you we'll do that first thing next week. Talk to the person next to you. Reflect on 2 points that you've learned today. And what do you think you are? Go ahead.